Yo, yo, yo. Oh, wait, my camera is not on. What's going on, everybody? I am the guy you cannot see. How's it going? Welcome in to another ZBrush stream. Let me actually get my camera up and running. That would be nice. Yeah, let me here, hold on one second. Let me see if I can get that up. 2 seconds. Hopefully, yeah. How's everybody doing? Hopefully, this is not a stream in which just won't have my face on it. Let me see. Let me see if I can actually hide that. Maybe I can do another one. I had to move my whole computer. We came from Monsterpalooza, so which was super awesome. You guys can't see who I am. Okay, hold on one second. Video capture. Let's say that's. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and put this back. Well, there it is. There I am. I'm there. Boom. That's pretty funny. What's going on? Hey. Ryan, what's happening? Seagull, what's going on, guys? Okay, here, let me just edit my beautiful self real quick. Where to put me? It's all happening live all the time. Okay, I'm gonna put me here. Boop. There we go. Okay. This will be good for now, and then I'll make sure to have the other camera source in after the fact. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut this. I'm actually going to put this. Can I put this under here? There we go. Yeah, that's a little bit better. That's a little bit better. Make me a little bit bigger. Beautiful. Beautiful. How's everyone doing today? What's up, Snickles? What's going on? Hopefully everybody's doing well. Welcome in to another ZBrush stream. So again, my name is Ian Robinson. Now you can see the face. If you've never seen me before, I make awesome, weird sculptures with cool monsters like this guy right here. Also just make 3D printing. I love anime. I like teaching ZBrush, which is what I do here because I'm the lead ZBrush trainer at Maxon. So yeah, we're gonna have some fun today. We're just gonna go through. What's up, DeFrox? How you doing? Mike switched to camera. It's a mystery. I know, it absolutely is. Yeah, your mic changed to the camera mic. Oh, shoot. Thank you. How about meow? Is that better? We hear those fans go. Those fans are going. Yeah, it gets a little toasty up here. Actually, that's not true. Okay, perfect. Yay! All right, awesome. Well, okay, great. Back to the technical difficulties. What is going on, everyone? Beautiful, much better. Yes, it's good. Nobody wants to hear crazy fans going on. So, if you guys weren't sure, last week we actually first time here, and hello, Christopher. Welcome. If you guys weren't sure, so over the weekend I was at Monsterpalooza with a ton of amazing artists and guests, and also too we just had a lot of people show up at the booth. So I'm running on decent fumes, aka coffee, and here. So if you also too with May the 4th, we did a May the 4th stream. Obviously on May the 4th, and I've been working on this piece slowly but surely this entire time. So I wanted to come in and actually kind of start posing him before moving into some final details and stuff like that. So we're just going to continue working on through. Of course, if you are new and you don't know and you're learning ZBrush or you just have questions about ZBrush, please feel free to ask me, as that's what I do. So you can go ahead and just throw your questions, and then of course I will answer them as best I can. And if I don't know the answer, I typically send you off to a place that you might be able to find the answer, unless it's just not possible. So all right, let's go ahead and get into it. So today I actually wanted to kind of do a test pose with him and see where we're going on with this. I am going to want him to be floating. So let's actually build like a nice little segment to this base that's going to actually connect into his back. And then that way he'll be a floating piece, because I am considering 3D printing him, where a lot of my stuff actually where ends up, since I do a lot of toys. So I'm going to go ahead real quick. I'm going to put these two dice right here into I'm going to come through here and actually group these. So I'm going to go ahead and Control-Shift select these two right here. They're independent of each other. I'm going to go ahead and just Control-F to put stuff into a group and call this die because there's two of them. There we go. Perfect. Unless we want to call it dice. We can call it whatever. Beautiful. And then we're going to go ahead and I'm going to hide them for right now. They're not really necessary for this. And then this this folder doesn't need to be there because we don't need to. That was the one we cut last week. So now we have this. Now we're going to go ahead and let's actually move into a pose. So I'm going to save it first, and then let's start posing. And the way I like to pose typically is by utilizing Transpose Master. But of course, too, there are many, many ways to do stuff. But if you have subdivisions turned on, then this will be a fairly simple process. So I'm going to go up here to the Z plugin, Transpose Master. And you know what's going on too? I don't have any music, which is what I typically listen to when I do stuff. Boom. Was anybody here at Monsterpalooza as well? Ellie's in the house. What's up, Ellie? Hold on, I need to reroute a bunch of stuff. 1 second. I need to... Man, my main speaker's on. I need to reroute a bunch of stuff into my headphones. Let's see here. Boop-a-doop-boop. That's going well there. Bam. I'm just like on fire today, doing a bunch of random stuff. Let's see. Let's go advanced audio properties. Typically, oh, you know what it is? Okay. Can you guys hear the music okay? There you go. Awesome. Yeah, what's up, Ian? Yeah, get that music on. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I have to work with music. I'm that guy. I can't not work with music. So I have to do it. Have to. And I use Pretzel Rocks for that. Okay, great. So we got this pose. We got this pose now. And actually, I skipped a step here. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to just delete all this. I don't need this up here. I'm going to go back to this guy. Okay. And so what I'm going to do now is actually create that base part first. I want to have at least an idea of where that's going to sit. So kind of jumping all over the place today. I warned you all. So don't mind me. But if you guys don't know who Ellie Wade is, by the way, she is an amazing Redshift trainer here at Maxon, and she is just dynamite when it comes to learning Redshift. So, and Cinema 4D. So if you guys want to know more about that, say hi to her. Say what's up. What's up, Ellie? Okay, let's go to. We're gonna do our typical. So there's two ways. We're gonna get either. We're gonna initialize this cube, so I can actually come here to the initialize function. And then I can actually turn this stuff down to 111 and then hit Q cube, which if we solo this out and hit full frame, this gives me this segment right here. That's one way to go about doing it. The other way to go about doing it is actually turning on the gizmo itself and then hitting this little cogwheel and then hitting polycube. And what's cool about this, instead of going to the initialize function, is that with these little cones right here, you can see that it has a divide of 4 on all the cones. So I can actually come through and drop this down. So if I wanted to have like true symmetry on this, I could literally just come through and say I want subdivision of 1 there, just like this. So I could do it this way as well and customize my shape, whichever works out best. There's no wrong way to eat a Reese's. And then from there, I'm just going to go ahead, go back to the gizmo, and then I'm going to set this here. And we're going to place this on down here at the bottom, because this is actually going to be something that is going to be extending off the back of this. So I'm going to stretch this on out. Get this relatively lined up. Now you don't have to be perfect with this because you can actually use a little trick, which is coming up by holding Control-Shift and then coming up to ClipCurve. And then when you draw out your ClipCurve, you'll notice that there's a little bit of a shadow. And that shadow side is what's going to disappear. So I can line that up here like this. And because there's no actual... There's only supporting edge loops that make the shape. There's no actual edge loops that are, you know, secondary or there's no like random edge loops. It's my point, only the ones that make up the shape. I could just literally squish that down and not hurt the geometry at all. Of course, of course. It also seems like my monitor's super zoomed in. You are probably correct. In fact, you absolutely are correct. Thank you for that. Let me unlock this. Man, everything is just all over the place today. There. All right, that sounds good. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of this one. Say, yep. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all of that. It's super helpful. There we go. Let's put that there. Let's put this over here. I'm on fire today, guys. I am on fire today. There we go. I always try to leave just enough real estate for stuff. All right, how does that look? Icy film, yes. Yeah, I'm going to be more live more often. There's just been a lot of stuff going on with events at work and shows, and then, you know, it has been fun and crazy. Nothing, just learning. Nice, nice, nice. Thank you, thank you. Perfect. All right, I'm going to lock these settings in now. Yeah, I actually took my whole system to Monsterpalooza so that our artists could have the best computer possible to come in and showcase their skills. So it was definitely quite fun and quite challenging to do the setup all over this morning. All right, let's go into some ZModeler action. So BZM for ZModeler. And then actually too, what we're going to do at this point is I'm going to start kind of refining this just a little bit. So I'm going to mask off this area, but I'm going to press and hold Alt to do an inverse mask. And now what I can do is actually kind of lift this up a little bit, just like such. Actually, I don't want to do that. I lied to you. What I'm going to do instead is actually come in here, hover over the edge. I'm going to do a custom edge loop right here. So I'm going to go ahead, single edge loop. I'm going to add in something like this. Going to mask this section off and kind of push this in a little bit. Say something like that. Then I'm going to pull this one out just a teeny tiny bit. And then now here too, I'm going to turn symmetry on by hitting X, press and hold Alt, and I tap. That gives me a temporary selection. And hovering over that face, we're going to do Q mesh. And I'm going to drag this sucker out like this. And we'll mask this section off. And then we're just going to bring this on up. And then I can do Control, drag, press and hold Control, and drag out a new edge loop. So I can rotate this around. And then I could do this a couple more times. So there's absolutely no need to just go back to ZModeler at that point. I can literally just come through here and just get a couple of these edge loops drawn out. Just like such. I kind of create my own little custom curve. Like that. There we go. Say something like this. Now this might be just a little too, this might be a little too thick, and that's okay. So we can actually come back here, reset this over here, pull this back out just a teeny bit. Maybe get that more in line with that. And now what I could do, I'm going to go ahead and actually come up to polygroups and group by normals. So then I have this, and then I can actually hover over this face with that Q mesh still selected. And as I'm dragging this in, I can actually press and hold Shift and get that a little bit more narrow. So it's not super, super skinny. And then at this point now I can do like a custom move. I can either mask this off or with the ZModeler, hover over a point, come over here with the move and do infinite depth. And then I can just manually move these into position that suits my need. Say something like that. Perfect. All right, that's gonna be good. I'm gonna want them hanging, so this is why we're gonna go this way. Yoo-woo! That's right. Yeah, Watto's awesome. How to snap Gizmo to the edge? Oh, perfect question. So if I wanted to snap the Gizmo to the edge of something, there's a couple ways I could do it. First off, with the Gizmo selected, I can either just come here to a point, pressing and holding Alt, which unlocks the Gizmo. So pressing and holding Alt will do that for me. And then what I'll do is I can literally just tap to that edge by just, again, I'm pressing and holding Alt, and I just tap one time to like the point that's on the edge, and I can reset the Gizmo, still holding Alt, and reset that. Also, if you mask off a section, like I want this specific edge, I can mask this section off, press and hold Alt to invert that, or if I mask it and I just left-click tap there, so that way that edge is the only thing selected, then still pressing and holding Alt, tap this little Google icon, sends it straight to that specific edge. Yes, you may absolutely ask something. I'm going to go ahead and just hit save real quick. I saw some YouTube videos that some of the ZBrush artists makes face shapes with a number of, with few numbers of spheres. One sphere for the jaw and the head, one front. Oh, okay, you're talking about the blockout method, if I'm reading the question right. Yeah, the blockout method. It's actually very, very common. And there's somehow, hold on, and then somehow there the sphere, it suddenly becomes one subtool with hole and head shape. Is that how you do it? Okay, so that's a great question. So there's a lot of ways to go about approaching how you want to actually block out a character. There is no real wrong way to block out a character. I would say the thing that you would want to remember is that whatever way you choose is going to be the most, stay with that style throughout the most consistent part of it. But even still, like when I say stay with that style, I mean for that project. Like if I start a blockout project, I typically stay, let me back up. Boop, 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 boop. So if I start blocking out a project, I typically stay with that style. I don't change up and move to like pulling out spheres and DynaMeshing unless it's just something I do real quick. When I start doing DynaMesh, where I pull things out and then rebuild and then adjust, the way I approach, I kind of pick and choose which one for me feels best for the project. Sometimes I just like the sketchy feels, so that's where the DynaMesh comes in. And sometimes I like being very accurate and I block it out. The reason why you'd want to choose the blockout method, in my opinion, is because if you're working from a concept art, then you're working to achieve that one-to-one from 2D to 3D 100%. And blocking out is one of the best ways to do that because you can actually get the silhouette of the character really quickly without merging things together. So to answer your question, yes, that is a very effective way to go about doing that. And so for example, I would showcase it. I would have this sphere right here. Here's my beautiful sphere. And let's say I wanted to block out the basics of a head, okay? So make sure I have symmetry turned on, and then I'm gonna just gonna have the move brush actually. So that's B, M, and V. Those are the hotkey shortcuts. And then what I would typically do to start blocking out a head is I would actually either utilize the ClipCurve or the slice curve. It doesn't really matter. I'll stick with the ClipCurve, and what I'll actually showcase is with a ClipCurve at like 60%, what's cool about this is that you can actually kind of cut this section down and it looks a little bit more dome-ish. And then, yeah, either you can just straight up control copy and start coming through here and getting your main shapes in this way. This is a super common way to start blocking out a head. You can even invert that mask, maybe set this in the middle. Whichever way you want to go ahead and do it, that's the way for you. So you could go this route. And then what's cool about this blockout visualization is I can turn that into a new polygroup so I could quickly isolate. And then something like the move brush, I can actually start pushing in this area right here. And then I can use this line to say like, oh, where's that eye gonna go, right? And then let's say here, I want the neck to come into place. So then I could pick a primitive brush, say something like this cylinder right here. And then I could just drag this shape out. And again, push this in. Maybe come around, scale the neck in a little bit, right? So this would be the way you would go about doing that. And then I would pick like the Move Infinite brush. Give me a little bit of a nice shape to that neck. Maybe push this here. Scale this up just a little teeny bit. And then like, let's say with this jawline here, that ClipCurve, shadow side of course, gonna come in and actually get some sort of refinement. Go back to the Move brush, not the Move Infinite, because I don't want to infinitely move stuff. And kind of just define that jawline just a little bit. And this stuff takes a little bit of time. You don't need to feel rushed with it. And then of course too, you could start kind of pushing in where the forehead would be. You could come in and start pushing in. And this just helps you see that area just a little bit faster. And sometimes I start my characters off this way, and other times I just get in there and start sketching. So it really is up to you. Also, if you use the Move Topological brush, I can actually just pull different polygroups. I don't have to keep masking stuff off. So I could pick this polygroup, and notice with this big old brush right here, once I tick the green polygroup, that's actually allowing me to come in and just affect that one shape. Smooth this down. And then let's say you're 100% super happy with this block out. Like here, let's actually get an ear in here real fast because we need ears for stuff. So I'm going to pull this out. Right, I'm going to get in here, just kind of just get a basic ear in there. We're not going too crazy. Okay, so let's say you're super happy with this and this is where you want to be at the end of the day. Then what I would recommend doing is duplicating that block out. I always duplicate, so that's Control-Shift-D, or you could come here to the duplicate function, so that way you always have a spare. And then from here now, what we could do is we can actually go to Geometry, DynaMesh, and then I could pick a resolution by just left-clicking that picker or the picker button, finding the resolution that it lives at, or I could type in a custom one, and then I could just DynaMesh, and now all of that is welded together. So then that shape then becomes what I want it to be. So that's the blockout method in a very short condensed lesson. Yep. If you're used to drawing, sketching, a lot of the same idea where you use multiple primitives to block out a shape, pose, etc. Absolutely. Yep, and like I said, duplicating that, I can always come back. If I didn't like the way this was merged, I could come back and adjust that stuff as quickly as possible. But that is a very effective way of doing it. Again, no wrong way to eat a Reese's, guys. No wrong way to eat a Reese's. You come in there and you just go ahead and just whatever suits you, utilize that method. And I recommend just utilizing that method for the majority of what you're trying to achieve. You know, and then when you're ready to learn a new method, then just change that gear a little bit. So again, when I'm doing like concept pieces, where is like I'm actually working from a concept, you will see me actually work with that method the most. And then when I'm just like doing my own kind of concept design, I'm just playing around, then I'll typically utilize like DynaMesh. So it's all just preference. Here we go. Okay. So I'm not going to really build this too much, but what I do want to do is make sure there's enough weight support here. So I'm going to go ahead and actually, I'm going to go back to ZModeler, hover over this area, I'm going to Alt tap this. I'm going to drag this out a bit. I'm going to connect that like such. Eventually I'll weld that piece to the actual base so it's all one piece. Or I'll cut that in itself and maybe add like something that would make the most sense. But I would probably stick with this color here. So let's go ahead and fill this with RGB. So color, fill RGB. Wow, thank you. No problem. Absolutely. Here to help, man. Here to help. I'm glad that's helpful. Hey, what's going on, Peace Lover Forever? Is this a skull from Star Wars? His face looks familiar. It absolutely is. This is my fan art piece of Watto. I love Watto. He's an awesome character, as in like the concept, the design. His actual character, he's a terrible person, but he's still such a cool character. There we go, there we go. Cool. So now we're going to hover over this edge right here, and I'm going to go ahead and just do insert. I'm going to insert a couple custom edge loops that's actually going to give me a nice fall off. So I'm going to do something like this. Let's just solo this out for a second. There we go. Say something like that. Okay, what I could also do, actually, if I wanted to, instead of doing all that work, the other way we could go about doing this, actually, is if we just take a look at let's just take a look at the actual model itself here with all the fun little edge loops. So instead of doing that, because I have polygroups, what I can do is actually go to Geometry, Crease, and crease those PGs, and then this creased level is set to like 15, and that's kind of ridiculous. So we can go up to like 2, maybe 3. The reason why we'd want to do that now is I'm actually going to come in here, hover over this edge, and just uncrease these parts right here, but I do want to crease that. I do want to make sure these edges are creased. The reason why I'd want to do this is because when I come through here and actually start subdividing, it's going to give me some nice edges. But here, let's do this. Let's make our life simple. So I'm going to uncrease everything on this. I'm going to come right back here to polygroups. I'm going to go back to group by normals, give me cleaner topology, polygroups, and then come here, crease those PGs again. There we go. Something nice and solid like such. So now that's going to look nice. Now when I go ahead and do some sort of subdividing, right, because I dropped the crease down to crease level 2, if we look here real fast, if I look at this edging, if I go ahead and start subdividing, at some point it's going to showcase and smooth out just a little bit. And so this is a little too low, so maybe we won't start that until crease level 4. There we go. Just a little bit nicer of a softer fall off. There we go. That's better. Turn all that color back on. Beautiful. All right, now we have a placeholder for how this is going to be hung. And now I'm going to go ahead and hit save, and then we're going to go and start posing him. Let's see. Hey, Ian, finally caught you live. Yes. Yes, what's up, Randoms? Why? But I guess I've made it late. No, you haven't made it late. I'm still here. We're still going. We're still good. That's collectible is still late, as always. Thank you so much. No, you are still good. We got time. We just got started. So if you're still here. All right. Okay, let's start the pose process. So here's the thing. The dice, or the die, that's going to be, I'm thinking about him just kind of holding it in his hand. So I guess what I really would like to do is like, maybe menacing look while holding dice. Let's see if we can find some images. Oh, Cuphead, that's always a cool reference. Wow, that was like such a specific thing that only a few images came up. I kind of like this. I like this hand gesture, actually. So maybe we'll do something like that. That's a really cool hand gesture. Let me see here. Do I have Watto reference? We can add that in. So if you guys have never used PureRef before, I highly recommend it. So you can see the basic reference starting point that I use to actually create Watto. So I'm going to drag this in. I think that's a really cool reference. He looks confused, like he's not supposed to be there, so I don't like that one. Again, this is more of the same. Okay, this is another possibility. So just kind of like, These feel too kind of limp though. Like it's just not like. Let's just see if we get like more with a simplified search, like holding dice. Let's see here. Oh, that's pretty cool. This is kind of cool, actually. That's wicked. I like that. Welcome to me doing research for reference. That's actually pretty cool. Okay, this gives me an idea. All right, this gives me an idea. That's it. I only need a couple images. We're not here to copy everything. I don't use Midjourney. No, I currently don't use Midjourney. Yep, you have a dinner party soon, so you keep watching. Yes, you have a dinner party. Awesome. Glad to keep you here. That's always good. Okay, great. And then after we do a basic pose, should I do that? Okay. After we do the basic pose, then from there, I want to actually refine his vest because there's not a whole lot at the moment of information. It's just a simple, really low res block out. So I definitely want to get there, but I do want to move to the pose soon. So I'm torn. So let's just go ahead and do this. So whenever I'm torn, what I do is we actually might call this Watto test pose because I need to see it. Like I could detail him all the way till we're blue in the face, and that in itself sometimes just isn't beneficial. So I'm going to branch off, and we're going to go with a test pose. We might end up keeping it, but for right now, we'll end up calling this test pose 001. And this way, what we'll do now is we won't worry about any more details. We'll come in here, and we'll send this back. Get our 30 subtools here. Yes, beautiful. And now we can start figuring out this stuff. You always struggle trying to find the right reference for what you want to create. Yeah, it is hard trying to find the right reference that you want. For me, I use it more like guidelines. Now, you like to buy one of my figures someday? You know that could be a possibility one day for sure. I want to start doing more stuff as well. Let's see. And how ZBrush artists use Midjourney? Do they use Midjourney? Blah, blah, blah. Finding reference for anyone, that's, everyone finds reference in their own way. I personally get enough out of Google. And I'm still learning about what AI is. I won't turn this into a giant AI conversation. I just don't know enough about it to speak on the matter. So where I don't know things, I don't speak. That's kind of my way of doing stuff. Okay, so the first things first, I'm going ahead and I just quickly selected him. And the way you could do that when you have multiple subtools that are merged together but not welded together is that you come over here and you just do a base selection. You select everything that you want, and if you're temporarily or partially selecting something else like this thing here, then what you can do. So I just came over and I pressed and held Alt to do the inverse selection, which hid it. Then Control-Shift-A reveals the non-welded piece that's still partially showing. Everything else is hidden. And now at this point, we have this. And I'm going to mask this section off. And now we're going to go ahead and, before I do anything, I pose the hips. I pose the hips on where this character is going to live. That's like my biggest thing. So from here, I actually want him up a little bit higher, I think, because weight distribution, we're talking about toys here. I want a good amount of weight. I think I want him to be leaning forward a bit too. So we'll end up doing something a little bit like this. And then I'm probably going to turn him just a bit. So we get something that's a little bit asymmetrical now. There we go. Say something like this. There we go. Now when you're posing, please feel free to take your time. You don't need to rush a pose. Posing is one of those things that, like, if you want it right, you're gonna finish sculpting the rest of your model in that pose. So you're gonna break away from asymmetrical sculpting. So it's really easy to want to just kind of rush the process. But trust me, just take your time. Maybe I want him looking more like me at this. I gotta do the stuff to get the things. Absolutely. There we go. And you know what? With him, he's not like a crazy superhero, right? Like, he's not like some crazy super athletic character. So there's no need to go super crazy with his actual pose. Like, we can just keep things pretty simple. And even referencing some of the other stuff where I've had him, like, I like this pose a lot where he's holding this up. This is also really cool, so I'm torn. But in the meantime, I'm kind of pulling off of this just a little bit with a little bit of this. So I just have this off on the side. So here, I'm going to go ahead and just select this guy. I'm going to I'm going to turn it up. I'm going to grab the gizmo, and I'm going to go ahead and press and hold Control. And I'm going to just get a base select here, and then kind of pull that back. Do a light softening. Okay. And now here I'm going to go ahead. Ooh, yes. Very, very nice. Let's make sure we mask all the other good stuff. Last thing you don't want to do is actually find out you've been moving other components of your model. And then the way I like to pose is I like to put the gizmo where the actual joint should be, or relatively close to it. Something like this. Kind of rotate that back just a bit. There we go. Don't be afraid to get the move tool. Pushing some of that. Whoa, calm down there, Ian. You're hitting stuff. There we go. I don't know. You need superpowers to stay airborne with those tiny wings. He's very buoyant, some would say. Okay, now here, this is where I'm not going to soften the mask, okay? I don't soften the mask on changes like this. And the reason why is because you're going to get a natural bend or natural crease here in your in the inside of your elbow. I don't know the technical terms. I'm bad at languages, let alone my own, so I don't even know where to begin with some of these actual crazy names. But that little spot right in there, the inside of your elbow, that is that right there is where we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of a softening, but we're going to want that natural crease there. So I'm going to leave that for now, but that's going to help me. That's going to help me get that nice defining line. So let's see here. His arms up. Maybe he's holding the dice like this in front of his face. So again, we're going to come through here. Mask this section off. There we go. Mask this area off as well. Invert that whole thing. Okay, now this is where it's going to get fun. And don't worry about breaking your model when you're posing. You're going to bust some stuff, and that's okay. So don't freak out if you're like, my model's breaking. That is okay. It's going to happen. So trying to pay attention to how things move is super important. going to be a little bit of resculpting happening, but that is fine. And then here, let's go ahead and select this area. And same thing, I'm not going to come in here and really soften this up too much. But it's important to note that we actually get some nice rotation in our forearm. So I'm going to go ahead and Alt-tap right here, come in, and I'm going to turn this so that he's going to be having the dice up here. There we go. So let's put the pivot point where this needs to be. Start raising this up, rotating this in a little bit. Now his hand gesture doesn't match at the moment, and that's okay. We're going to fix that. We just need to get this high enough without busting it too much. Okay. Let's go ahead and select that guy right there. Let's do that right there. The arms are beautiful than my real life. You guys are so funny. May I ask how I could, let's see here. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. I love the way you stylize the anatomy by maintaining easy readable shapes but still nice bone skin replication. Top notch. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Signor. You guys are too kind. Let's see. May I ask how I could project complex detail modeling onto low polygon model and export for another software, please? Yeah, give me 1 second and I can cover how the project feature will help for you. I'm going to go ahead and hit F real quick. If you get too far zoomed in and you're off here in left field and you're like, I don't know what happened, just go ahead and hit F, full frame that because you're pivoting off of that gizmo. Turn that bad boy on. Let's come up here. Okay, so like I said, there is some rotation that happens here in this area. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on smooth here real fast. And I'm going to just do a smooth relax. And the way you smooth relax is you hold shift, you start smoothing, then you let go of shift while you're still smoothing. So you hold shift, click, start smoothing, let go of shift. And this does a smooth relax, so it's not super destructive. But it is still helpful to have a lower intensity when you're doing that. So then you get something like this, okay? So now let's just come through here. Let's get a halfway decent selection right about here. All right. I tried soloing it like a genius. Don't do that. You're merged together. Okay. Here, let's do this again, actually. Let's come up over here. I'm going to go the reverse way of this. There we go. It's just a little bit easier to maintain. Perfect. Okay. Select this, invert this. There we go. Mask this section. Put that back. Perfect. All right. Let's come in here. I'm going to do a little bit of a rotation, but I'm up here at the top. This is why I like to put it in the joint as much as possible. I like to come in here and put it where the joint would live. So this way it makes the most sense when you make a movement like rotation, right? So I could come through here, rotate that forward a little bit. So now the hand is facing out and this feels more natural. I could pull this in, okay? And then anytime we rock our arm like this, we're still moving the joint. We're still moving the shoulder joint, right? So you want to make sure now that if I want to make that movement, we just don't move the forearm. We got to make sure that we actually turn around and move the rest of it too. So then that movement should actually be taking place here. And again, I'm not worried about breaking this too much. What I am worried about is just making sure this makes sense. Okay. So then he'll be like this. So then this pinky will be up a little bit. So maybe actually this might be just a little too far. So let's pull that down just a little bit because I don't want to cover his face either. That's the other thing. I don't want to cover his face. And maybe I don't want this to be too far down. So let's do that. And we'll rebuild after such. Okay, let's pause on the arm for a second and let's actually move his lower legs. You love the smooth relax function? Guess I use it way more than normal smooth. Dude, I use it all the time. Use it all the time. Hey, what's up, Leonard? How you doing? I use it so much, it's not even funny. It's my favorite smooth feature, that nice little hidden gem. Okay. Now here, this little back end booty of his. So again, same thing. I'm gonna put that right where I think that joint should be. And then here, on this one, I'm actually gonna be pulling this back just a little bit. Again, he's floating. So get a little bit of movement here. And then we'll come in and we'll do this side as well. I'm going to do a little bit of a smooth here. Again, the reason why I'm doing the smooth on some joints and not on others is some joints, it's a little bit more natural, free-flowing. Other joints, you need that nice crease. So anytime there's like a knee or the elbow or a knuckle, I never smooth that. But if it's big movements like hips that actually cause, you know, the abdomen or the striatus to move, or here, like I'm rotating the shoulder joint, but other things like the chest will move and the back muscles will move. So I smooth those areas out. It really just starts feeling a little bit more natural when you take that approach. So see here, see how like I'm able to get a little bit of a squishy effect here with his stomach. So that would be a little bit more natural. As that comes up, it's going to press against the weight of that. Because he's flying a bit, I'm going to actually pull in his legs just a tiny bit. And for fun, we're going to go ahead and actually bend this leg up just a little bit more. So again, I'm not going to sit there and soften that one up, but I'll put this right about where his knee should be. And then I'm going to bend that up just a little bit. Again, very subtle. We don't need to go too crazy. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. That's kind of cool. I'm going to go ahead and actually mask this section off here. Rotate this. Also, it's probably the most focused a lot of people have seen me recently. So we're going to go ahead and rotate this guy just a little bit here. And then I'm going to, same here with the wrist. I'm not going to soften that wrist area, but I will come through, put this right on the inside, kind of open this up just a bit. There we go. Yeah, something like that. And then the relax smooth will help me kind of fix anything that maybe I don't like. Okay, perfect. Now, if we're feeling really froggy, we're feeling cool, we could send this back at this point. But what I'm going to do is actually tap the T-pose mesh, and I'm going to save this pose out because I don't want to risk breaking anything. So I'm going to hit save. Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you, dude, so much. Yeah, it is Shane's fault. Shane taught me the smooth relax years ago, and I've never looked back. Hello there. Quick questions. How do you move the masked area after using the lasso? It looks like you were masking with the lasso and then repositioning it. Awesome question, and thank you for noticing that. That's a super cool one. So here you go. So if you make a mask with the lasso and then you press and hold the space bar, you can actually move that to any position that you want and let go, and it masks that area off. So yeah, so what I was doing was pressing and holding control, and then from there I'm just getting my mask, getting it roughly in the general area. Then I also, at the same time of pressing control, press and hold the space bar, and now I can position that exactly where I want that to be. This also works well when you are doing the actual selection. So, and again, too, once you start, you don't even have to press and hold control. I do that out of habit. So an easier way would be press control, start your mask, let go of control. You can see my mask still exists. Press the space bar, move that around. It's just habit for me to press and hold the control down because I learned it that way like 8 years ago. And so never look back. So you can see I'm just now pressing the space bar. So once you start that mask, press control, start the mask, and then go ahead and press and hold the space bar, and that'll do it. And again, same thing with like making a basic selection. Just control shift, start your selection, press the space bar, move that wherever you want, and then it selects that area. It's great stuff. All right. Okay, here. So we got this little bit of a breakage in his butt here. So we're going to come through. I keep hitting solo like that's going to matter. So here I'm going to actually increase the intensity of my smooth, come in, make a little bit of like some sculptural changes. There we go. That'll be fine. We'll correct it in the final once we send that back. And then let's actually do this too. Let's come in, let's grab this guy. I'm going to grab just these two guys here. I'm going to make this selection. Again, don't even have to hold that space bar. Make sure we masked everything. Now for here, I'm going to come through, make this selection, maybe press and hold that space bar just to get a little bit more, soften that up. Here I'm going to mask this section. There we go. Perfect. What I want to do actually with this, I'm going to Alt tap. I'm going to kind of just rotate in his hips just a little bit. There we go. Yeah, something like that. Just bring it in just a teeny bit. Let's look at everything. Now, here's the fun part. Before I even send it back, before I do any of that, I want to take a look at stuff. Always take a look at stuff. Look at the motion of the ocean. Look at how things are going to be, right? So here, for example, he's actually, in my opinion, too far back. So I'm going to go ahead and mask this section off. And I'm going to send him forward because he needs to be centered to that base. I can always readjust this section to fit or add more details. This is just the block out. I'm not like sitting here set to stone on what this actual connection point looks like. So that's fine. I'm okay with that. Now let's look at this from the front side. I like that he's a little sideways actually. If I rotate him back this way. Okay, so for me, actually, the movement of this leg here was too much. So again, I'm going to come through here, grab this section. Let's actually do this instead. Let's grab that. So let's actually pull that back then. So again, this is why you just take your time with it, because if something feels off, it's okay. So maybe that should be a little bit more straight down. And because of his joints, you know what we could do too? Let's actually come through here. Let's select this. Let's actually move this forward. I'm going to set this down here in space. I'm going to Alt-Tap right here. Because of the way his joints are, I can actually bring this up. So we can move more of him here like that. And then what we could do is come through here. We can actually pull this down like such. Let's do a little bit of smoothing. There we go. That's looking a little bit better. Control-Shift-A, mask this section off. Bring all that stuff back. Send this in the middle. Let's take a look. Okay, maybe he's just a little too sideways, which is fine. Let's put him forward just a teeny bit. Again, don't throw him too far back. Awesome. Okay, I think that's pretty good. All right, what I'm going to do is send him back just because I made some decent changes, and I don't want to go too far too quickly. What's up, BT? What's happening? Hey, and how do you use the Gizmo as a pivot for the camera? Oh, great question, great question. So in 2023, right now, if I wanted to look on his eye here, so I have this, I'm going to go ahead and just Alt-Tap here, so I position the camera there. And then what I'm going to do is just press and hold Shift, and that's going to go ahead and pick that section of it. So for example, I wanted to look at his tummy, press and hold Shift, and it kind of gives me that angle. I can just hit F to reframe if it kicks it away too far. So as you're working around and you're like, okay, I really need to look at the top of his head, I just press Shift, do that, press F to zoom in. Sometimes it kicks it away a little bit, but that gives me the exact angle in which I was looking at. So here, same thing. Come through, exact angle, pressing F does that for me. Come here, press and hold Shift, exact angle, zoom in. So that's how you would utilize that. Super great question. That's new to 2023, if anybody's curious. Okay, now, okay, what I'm going to do is I want this actually to be low resolution again, so I'm going to drop it all the way back down to the low subdivision level. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mask this section off. And now what I need to do is see where does this actually insert. Because I don't want this to be, too much. Wow, yeah, good words, Ian. I don't want this to be interfering with too many tools. So I'm actually going to squeeze that in just a little bit. Now here, I'm going to go ahead and select this guy. I'm going to reset my Gizmo. Okay, so I'm going to make sure I select these, and then I'm going to Control-Shift, invert that. I'm going to see if I could put this in the middle, get away with that. Oh, nice. Yeah, that's actually perfect. Nice. That will be a good connection point for sure. Now you can see here we got a lot of details back, but we also broke a lot of stuff, but not too terrible. So now we get to fix that. So we're going to come through. I'm going to say save next. So I have my main pose set as 001, and now here I could say save next. And now I could step between subdivisions. I could do a little bit of a smooth and work on the lower layers to get that, to get a lot of that volume back. Smooth that down. Step back up by pressing D, and this will help correct some stuff. Oh, like just what I did right now? Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way to do it. So the way to go about doing that is, again, like I showcased, you have everything shown. And with the Gizmo here, you just go ahead, turn the Gizmo on hitting W, and you're going to hit this pizza box. It's a long name. Subtools, all selected subtools. Transpose, all selected subtools, aka the pizza box. You can just turn that on, and then what you could do is Control-Shift-Tap the things that you want to keep or don't want to keep. You can also just select the sections that you want, and then the sections that you don't want, right? And then you can inverse that. Control Shift, tap to inverse your selection, and then from there, whatever it does not look like it's anti-aliasing, that will move. And then it's also Control Zable. So if I send all of my stuff off over here in space, Control Z sends it all back with one fell swoop. And then just want to make sure that's turned off. All right. Now what we're going to do is, so you might be thinking, all right, good job. You moved the hand there. Everything's good. But now the dies themselves, the die is not in the right position. Well, that's okay, because now what we get to do is we get to come here and we get to kind of pseudo place those, and then we can move the hands around it. It's nice to have a prop there relatively close to where you think it's going to be, and then you move the fingers and the prop to fit. So you're not forcing one or the other. You're kind of moving them together. So first things first, let's select this guy right here, right? And now I'm going to turn around and rotate this just a little bit, but I want to give it some different, I want to give it a different position. Okay, that's important to me. Because the thing is that no one holds die perfectly together. I mean, you try. If you played cards or dice or anything, you probably have tried. I know I have. But what's fun about the render itself is that we want to be able to kind of position it in a way that feels more natural. Right? So I'm going to come in here. I'm a fidgeter when I play games, so I typically will try to set things perfectly together every time. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. All right, that's close enough. That's close enough, right? You can even rotate that just a little bit more. Okay, cool. So now he's holding. That's the position in which the die will be. And again, and you know what too? There's another thing. Like I'm sitting here trying to like perfectly get it, and you may or may not, and it's okay if you don't. That's what, you know, like ClipCurve or something was designed for. So don't feel bad. Now I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to turn these two on. I have them separate currently. I eventually will merge them together, but for right now, I won't. And then I'm going to scale this down to make sense. And now I think what I would like, his wrist is still a little, I'm going to want his, so see here, this actually might need to, his arm position already might need to change, because I'm thinking he's going to hold up the die. So I'm looking at the way that, I don't know if you can see it, I'm looking at the way that my arm gesture is going to be, and that is something that's super important to me. So I want to make sure that I honor that as much as possible. So I'm going to kind of pseudo place these in a position, and it may not be straight on. Actually, we may actually be slightly angled, because I don't know about you, but like, you know, my flexibility is what I would consider to be normal. So I'm probably going to rotate his wrist back and then try to angle it up, and then his dies will be there. And maybe this is why I haven't fixed the underside of his arm yet. I might rotate that arm down a little bit, because the more I'm realizing it, my elbow is more at an angle than what I have here. This is more horizontal to his body, and I'm actually showing you in an angle position. So I've already corrected in my head what that pose looks like. So I'm going to hit save, and then we're going to go back. Oh, the strength curve of ClipCurve, the ClipCurve strength blew your mind. Yeah, that one's awesome, right? Okay, you're hitting the casino next week. I could use this as a Buddha. That's so funny, dude. Will the painting be saved if the model doesn't have UVs, or is it only usable to for look dead purposes if there are no UVs to begin with? That's a great question, stout fella. So a lot of programs now are recognizing vertex coloring, and that's what PolyPaint is. It's vertex color. So you could absolutely bring this into another program that supports vertex coloring. However, If this was to be more than a statue, which right now that's all it's going to be for me, then I would absolutely want to get really nice clean UVs and then go ahead and throw that texturing on it. However, too, there is a workflow even in the toy world where you can go ahead and send your models to Substance Painter, texture all that stuff there, and then utilize those maps, because then you could take that map, bring it back into ZBrush, and then you can take the color from the map and turn it into polypaint. So there's some cool techniques with that are super helpful. So at the end of the day, it really is whatever approach you want. But like I said, a lot of programs like Cinema 4D and Blender, as an example, those two use Vertex coloring. I think Maya also recognizes Vertex coloring. I don't use it that often, but I'm just pretty certain. So a lot of programs do support that, and that's helpful when you're painting. But to your point, for me, it helps. The color helps me visualize what the character is, and that helps me take it to the next level. You just want to make sure that you're not hiding any, mesh irregularities with color. Like, you want to make sure you don't do that. But that's a fantastic question, by the way. So I've masked everything off on that side, and now I'm going to come through. Let's actually mask this section here. Boom, like that. Yeah, okay, so now we're going to correct, we're already correcting this. And this is why I say don't rush it. Like, you get the pose you get when you get it, and you're totally fine. Even on a deadline, when it comes to posing, I just make sure I give myself enough time that I'm not sitting here freaking out that the pose is taking too long. But usually you can knock out a decent pose in like a day. This project's been fun because I've only been on it for in total, I think I've only put about 10 hours worth of work into him. But it's been sporadic, so there we go. There we go. That looks a little bit more natural. Let's go ahead and do a relax smooth there. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to come in, going to start masking off this area. Boom, like that. Let's actually solo this for a second. Make sure that mask is correct. Perfect. I'm going to put the gizmo here. Now, I'm just going to straight up break his wrist here. And I'm going to rebuild it. Nope, Chase, you are not late. If you produce the map, if you produce the ID map in if you come in here and you go to texture map and you create that texture map here, and then because the UVs should line up, you could drag and bring that into Substance Painter. Yeah, in theory, you should be able to. I've never done that. I've never seen a need to do that, because usually if I'm moving into Substance Painter, I'm going for a specific look that I think Substance Painter would do well in. But, yeah, you should be able to. Okay, now we're going to go ahead. Reset this guy here. Okay, so I'm going to change his thumb position here in a minute. But I'm also going to favor this finger. This finger position is nice, right? The thumb can rotate, the index finger cannot. Through like this. I'm gonna go boop, Just a little tappy tap right there with the Alt. Mustafa, thanks so much, man. Appreciate it. Okay, so we're going to come through. We're going to hold that right there. And now before I bend this side of the knuckle, again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to go ahead, move that there, bend this down, get this most of the way. Okay. Okay. So I know I just said you cannot rotate the main knuckle, but I'm going to cheat. I'm going to go ahead and cheat it just a little bit. This is the beauty part about sculpting. All right, as long as it looks believable. So I'm going to soften this just a little bit, and I'm going to do a slight cheat. Just a slight, just a tiny bit. Not doing too crazy. Don't go too nuts. Just move that down just a bit, because I want this to feel natural. Okay. Here we go. And now I'm going to come through here. Start pushing that down just a little bit. Yes. Yes. That's looking pretty good. Okay. So now I'm going to come through, select just his arm again, or his hand. Just going to select this section right there, just so that I can get a little bit closer to it. And again, we're going to mask this section off here. I see you're too good. You're too nice, man. I'm an artist who's just willing to keep learning and improve myself, and I never stop asking, how can I do something? I just love it, man. I just love it. Okay, so check this out. I'm gonna give him, for aesthetics, I'm gonna give him another knuckle. Should I give him another knuckle? No. Should we lie about that? No. No, okay. All right, you're literally watching me think here for a second. So what I'm debating at the moment is where the dice should actually sit. Because he has really long fingernails that I've given him. I could shorten those, but I also feel like that's part of his character, right? So then I'm going to come through here, grab this guy. Let's select these guys right here. Smooth this up. Okay. Actually, that's all right. That's perfect. Okay, we need to rotate his thumb. That's actually looking pretty good. Okay, so let's actually position this right to be where this needs, and then we can move the thumb around to fit. Because again, the thumb itself, if y'all remember this signal from the 90s, so I can make sure that the pad of my thumb touches the pad of each and every finger, right? So I need to rotate this thumb to fit that, and then we'll resculpt anything that is off. So I'll put the die here in this section, and then we'll go ahead and select these parts here. And then now what I'm going to do, I need to just see what's happening. So we're going to select this section. Again, being able to work off of your model in a way that makes sense is ideal. So I'm going to select this group here, bring everything back, inverse that, and then this is where I'm going to soften a bunch. Okay, I'm going to rotate this down. I'm going to rotate it just a teeny bit. You can see his hands all kind of busted right now. That's okay. Let's mask this area. Boom, like this. Okay. I feel like his thumb is ridiculously long. Okay, that should be fine. Let's actually go ahead and clear this up just a little bit. Grab this guy. Do a little bit of a relax smooth. We'll get the sculpture elements done. And then let's focus on right here and right here. And what I'm going to do is mask off this area. Come in here and then kind of rotate that around. He don't need an extra clothes. He's perfectly comfortable in his skin. Okay, now here's the other thing too. Notice how this is completely off. I need these to line up, right? Because we're holding a thing. So I need these to line up as best as possible. So I'm going to select these guys here, inverse this, and then we need to make this adjustment. So we need to come in, and we need to correct this area. Making sure that that makes sense. Okay. And then now here, let's grab this one. Let's grab this one. There we go. Just mask that section off. Come on up. Drag this down. I'll even scale it up just a little bit. Okay. Okay, I think that's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. He's holding that die the way I want him to. Let's get this going. Let's actually take the move brush, move the scale up a little bit. So ideally here now we're just correcting that. All right. Let's come through here, Z plugin, let's send it back. Hey Cube! Hey, what's happening? How are you? Is there a way to turn off hide edge loop on Mask Lasso? That's a great question. So the reason and the understanding for that, and I kind of want to call that out because that's a great question. So the understanding about that is understanding how it actually works. So what's cool is if you go to the select rec, right, it doesn't matter if I'm on an edge, a point. Notice that it's actually not really detecting anything but the points on this. So when I click this, it's just going to click the polygroup itself. Well, but we need a little bit more control with that sometimes. So if I take the same thing, select rec, and go to stroke and turn the lasso on, now notice too that when I select on the edge, it actually picks the loop. And that's because the function of the stroke. So it doesn't really matter which one it is. So for your question, can I turn this off? The answer is yes, you can. The way you do that is you just change the stroke. So now if I click this, notice here that it doesn't matter if I'm picking the edge because I am literally using the stroke of the rec. So that's the difference in how it works. But there's going to be some times where you actually do want to select that edge loop, and that's the reason why you would go about doing it that way. So hopefully that answered your question, but yeah, that's the way you go about doing it. Oh, look at this guy. All right, let's save this. I'm really happy with this. Every time I pose a character and ZBrush, my OCD gets triggered. Man, every time I pose a character, like, okay, so this has basically been a stream of like how to pose, right? But honestly, like, just breathe. Like for me, I feel you because I'm definitely somebody who sits there and like overanalyzes and overthinks way too much when it comes to stuff. So I would just say, yeah, take your time with it. Again, like the way I started this character, I always pose from the hip first because I feel like that is something that ultimately does a better job leading with the way the character is naturally going to be going. Like there's this rule when it comes to body and motion is that wherever the head is, the body will follow. But a lot of our center of gravity is derived from the hip and abdomen area. So in theory, if you were to point your hip in a place, then you could also generate your body movement going in that direction. And it just feels a little bit more natural. When I was in martial arts, we taught a lot about like from the hip, like if you were to do a roundhouse kick or a front kick or an axe kick, all of it gets generated from the hip. And this generates a lot of power and a lot of accuracy with your movements. And if you apply that knowledge into your sculpts, generating the movement from the hips and where the head would be is really going to help kind of set things up for success for you. So this is definitely the method in which I take from my approach. What's up, just in case? Boom, 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 boom. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you doing? Okay, so now we're back here, and the reason why we're back here is because I want to actually pose the pinky now. So I'm going to come through here, I'm going to grab this area, invert that, and I want to pose the pinky area. So I'm going to Alt-tap right there, kind of move this around. Actually, I want to make sure that this loop is not selected, because I want to go from right here. So maybe this loop right there. Perfect. And I'm going to push this in. Because when I hold like, ooh, you know what actually? We're going to go up. Pinky's out. I just realized how I was holding it. I'm holding it like this, and I want my pinky to be up. So we're going to do that. Move this guy here, bring this in. There we go. Pinky's out. Do a little bit of a relaxed smooth there. And then I'm actually going to move this inward just a little bit. And I'm also going to move it up just a little bit. Gives it just a little bit more. Yes. Yes. This looks pretty nice. I like it. Perfect. I love it. Little movement. Send it back. Would you like to send that back? I find the hardest poses to be the natural relaxed ones. Yeah, anything dynamic and I'm in the zone. Exactly, because I feel like we could just straight up like break stuff, right? Like you could just straight up come in here and I'm actually going to do save. Just going to say over that. Like, yeah, you could just come in and straight break it and then reapply it, sculpt over it. And then, yeah, that dynamic pose is just like you're in the zone, right? We still need to pose his facial expression because we don't have that. And we're going to start it, but we're not going to get enough to it. So I got to get like something that I think looks good. Like maybe he's smiling. But yeah, no, I agree with you. Natural poses are crazy, which is why I think I've been leaning into them more often lately. I feel like it's something that's, you know, helped me get better at it and pay more attention to the way I move my body. But yeah. %100% agree. Yes. Okay. Icy film. Yes. So to delete any part of your geometry, like just in case just said, if I were to go ahead, I'm just going to hit save on this real quick. And let's say I have this section right here. Bam. And I want to delete the absolute rest of the model. Like he's saying in the chat, just if you have subdivisions, go to the lowest subdivision and then go to geometry, modify topology, and delete hidden. That deletes everything. And I have a lot going on right now, so it's actually, I just hit delete. There you go. So now that's it. I don't have anything else. I literally lost it all, right? But here's the cool part. Modify topology, delete hidden, you can get that back. That is one of the delete functions you can actually get back. Boom. Just got it back. Control Z. So that is something that you could do to get all that information back. If you hit the major delete button, the big one here under Subtool delete, that's, once it's gone, it is gone. However, let's say we accidentally did that. So we're working here and we save because we're cool kids and that's what we like to do. And we're working on something, right? And then let's just come through and like, this is a good point because I have my Watto body. Notice I'm in my folder right now. Okay. And I'm going to sit here and let's say like I come through and I'm making some sculptural changes. I'm like, yes, this is so cool. I love my job. I'm doing everything. Bam. Awesome. And then you're like, oh my God, you know what? I need to delete this thing. I don't need these nails anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and hit delete and I ignore this and I delete everything. And I was like, I deleted my whole folder. I deleted everything there. Why did I do that? Well, if I saved recently, which is why I'm a big component of saving, before you just think it's all said and done, what you can do is go back and just hit load tool. Okay, and when you do that, then what you can do is you can go back to where that original file existed. And here's my test pose. Oh, look, there's my pose 2. I'm going to load this in. And the trick with this is that now, even though I did some work and I did lose some work, I now can just reload the current file I'm still working on. You can reload that current file as many times as ZBrush can allow you to, which is quite a lot. So then here now, because it was a whole folder that I had lost, I can actually come on up here and I can go ahead and go to Subtool Master and copy folder. So that's Z plugin, Subtool Master, copy folder. And then I go back to where I lost everything. And then I can go back on up to Z plugin. And now that copy folder turns into paste folder. And then you can bring that back in. Or you could just copy and paste the subtool that you lost, and then you're totally fine. And now, boom, I got all of that back right here and there. And then I could come up here, go to Save As, and then now I can go and save up my new file or save over the old one. So that's a really helpful way if you accidentally lose something, instead of just shutting it all down and going home and crying in your pillow like I've done several times at night. It's okay, Ian. Going to be okay. That's one way you can avoid that. Hey, Rich, thank you so much. I'm just dude, Rich, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I know, right? Right, AQ? I can't tell you how many times I've just like, fine. My life is over with. Okay, cool. Now we can go ahead and start refining some of this stuff too. We need to get some more of this information back. So here's a cool thing. So now with this guy right here, I'm actually going to go ahead and start figuring this stuff out. So we need to get his detail. Now we can start pushing some details. I'm pretty happy with this pose actually. This was just a test pose, but I think I'm going to lean into this one. There's still a lot to do. There's still a lot of information. I want to push the detail of this guy to the next level. That's actually the purpose of this sculpt. I got to fix that. Make a mental note. It's actually one of the main purposes of this project was to do some cool creature stuff. I love creatures, and I was at Monsterpalooza, and man, oh man, I will tell you, I got super stoked when it came to some of the artists and the work that I was seeing there. I was like, yes. So I'm actually going to end up doing some more creature work because why not? And I also at the same time want to improve my anatomy knowledge. So I'm going to be referencing a lot of really cool animals. Hey Cube, you'd be happy about this. Oh my God, I wanted to tell you, I thought of you over the weekend because I stopped by the AnatomyTools booth, and I'll take a picture of it because I don't think I did. But I ended up getting one of the crocodile AnatomyTools statues, and I'm in love with it. It's so awesome. I honestly want them all now, and I remember that you also have a few, if I remember right. But yeah, I was like, man, this is so cool. So I had to tell you something. So, yep, 100%. Yep. I know they're painted as, it's so awesome. It's so awesome. So shout out to the Anatomy tool guys as well, because if you guys really want to, I'll show you the one that I got. Let's see if I can look it up real quick. Anatomy tools. Here, hold on. Let me just make sure. Here, let me see real quick. This one was an animal. Okay, this is the one that I got. I didn't get the painted one because I couldn't afford it, but this is the one that I got. Let's see if I can blow it up just a little bit. Yeah, I got him because I want to do a couple reptiles. So I'm super excited about it. This guy's so cool. And just look at the detail. It's so amazing. Yeah, I love this one. So I picked him up. I was like, yes. It was so funny. I was chatting with Tan, and I was telling him, I was like, dude, I want them all. He's like, I know. He's like, yeah. He's like, well, just start one at a time. He's like, I'll help you out. Start one at a time so you don't break your wallet. And I was like, I appreciate you so much. He could have just been like, he could have like leaned into that. He could have been like, yes, you need everything. But he was nice. He was like, no. Just start small. It's okay. So now actually what I'm going to do, honestly, no joke, I'm just going to like put those on like my Christmas wish list. Be like, okay, anybody want to do anything? I could have all of these. These are my new Pokemon. I want to collect them all. Yeah, exactly. If I would have went to once, really would have taken out a loan. Seriously, there's so many cool things there. I gave myself a budget of like what I would allow myself to purchase, and I went over by $200. But it was all like really awesome. Like some of it was to just straight up support some of the artists that I love and have just come to enjoy their work and respect. You know, aka like Rafael Grassetti was there, and I was lucky to get a piece of his, like, because he sold out so fast. You know, and it's like, man. And then of course too, I met some awesome people like Matt Millard was there, and I wanted to support his work as well, so I picked up some of his pieces. Yeah, it was super awesome. Yeah, if you go to Monsterpalooza as an artist, save up. It's like our Las Vegas. There's just too much. Okay, let's fix this wrist real quick. What are we at right now? We still got some time. Okay, cool. So I'm going to step this down. Going to do a little bit of a relax smooth here. Okay, and then I'm going to move the underlying arm just a little bit. Kind of push that up just a teeny bit. Step the details back up. And we're going to just kind of clean this section for a bit. Yeah, I went over only by 200. Yeah. I won't tell you what I actually spent, but it was over I went over the 200. I was like, okay, yeah, it was fine. It was all worth it. I know, man. Yeah. I know, dude. Simon Lee's work, Raph's work, Damon Bard was there. Like I said, Matt Millard was there. Steve Wang was there. John Mahoney was there. There's a part of me that was just like, man, do I have to work this? But it was awesome. I got a chance to like just connect with everyone. Like, jeez, it was so cool. Made a lot of new friends. Jared Convinci was there. If I did not butcher that name, I probably just did, but he was there. So many people there. Steve Tips was there. Shout out to him as well. Justin Goby Fields was there. So many people were there. The list is long, and yeah. Okay. All right, correct some of this really funky thumb anatomy here. Luckily, he's an alien. So this is actually kind of what I mean when I talk about like working on anatomy and stuff like that. Because he's an alien, right? Things don't, to me, things don't immediately feel super off. But when you're looking at correcting stuff and you're trying to ground it into reality, you definitely want to come in and make sure that it all feels nice and natural and comfortable. And so sometimes working on creatures is nice to be able to like kind of sit there and like, you know it's wrong, you know what to fix, but it doesn't look terrible. So it kind of calms my mind a little bit. I'm not sitting here like in utter disgust of it. You know, we're like when I do like a human character, I take so much time with the anatomy because everyone knows what's right and what's wrong. And when something looks wrong, like, and maybe you don't know what it is, it's hard to zone in on that factor. Then it just gets frustrating, right? We're here, like I know the thumb is still wonky. It's going to take some correction. But when I come all the way out here, because he's like an alien, I don't get the immediate sense that it's off. I can just tell where it's at because I know what I'm looking for, and somebody else might as well be able to see like, oh yeah, that's wrong. But again, it's not freaking me out. It's not causing me to have existential crises. Not terribly, at least. So I get to really just focus on the joy of correcting it. Okay, I need to settle on a facial expression soon, and there's not enough time to do that, but we can start. Paul should put that gremlin up for sale. I want that thing so bad. Dude, that gremlin was amazing. It was 24 inches. It was just so beautiful. He did such a great job. It's one of those days, I know, right? I'm new here. Can I get this design for free? No, so this design right now, this is just a personal project that I've been working on. We did a May the 4th live stream, and there's no current plans right now to release this model. But yeah, but thanks for asking. I do appreciate that. One of my few happiness of hard living life is watching Strange Life. Dude, you're so awesome, man. I do appreciate you. Dude, honestly, yeah, I love meeting people in person again. You know, it's nice that we could do it. We could do it safely. So if you're able to do it safely, then absolutely. You know, we have SIDGraph coming up. We have the ZBrush Summit going to be coming up soon. So we're going to be releasing more and more info on that. So if you're able to start planning that, come on out. We'd love to have you. Okay. Okay, so I'm not going to hyperfixate on that thumb just yet. I will correct it in due time. Right now, I want to make sure everything else is looking pretty good. So I'm going to dig into his armpit just a little bit. Check the way that actually does work there. Okay. Get that chest in there right. Okay, what I want to do before I get too much further, okay, so I have this guy right here, and what I want to actually do is create like a little bit of a lip on this so it feels a little bit natural. It feels just a little bit kind of funky at the moment, but usually there's some sort of lip or design on a lot of this. So actually what I want to do, I'm going to hit save, and then now I have these pieces separated, so none of these pieces are actually connected anyway. And what we're going to do is we're going to utilize a alpha curve, I think. And I'm going to set this over here. I'm going to go to stroke modifiers. Okay. And I'm actually going to turn off the size intensity for a minute. And then I think I'm going to also just turn repel off, strength off. In fact, I don't even need to do it with this brush. I'm doing too much work. Let's actually come here to curve strap. There we go. That'll be good because that's going to do this bad boy. Perfect. So let's activate that. We're going to go to curve snap strap or curve strap snap. There we go. And then I am just going to go on up here to stroke. And I'm going to go here to our curve functions. And I'm going to just do polygroups and maybe frame that section. Now let's do border. Let's do border. I'm going to tap. It's going to give me a little bit of that. Something like that. It was posed, and so not symmetrical, which is fine. So let's actually take a look. Yeah, that's going to look, that's going to look kind of nice. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and click there. I'm going to click off these different polygroups. So I have this guy right here, and then I'm going to go ahead and just do polygroups, auto groups. So they're all different. Inverse that, clear the mask, subtool, split hidden. Okay, so now I have these details here. So I can come back here, turn this one on, turn this one on, and now we can start correcting these a little bit. And I also want these to be brown, so I'm going to come up here, color that. I don't want that to take away too much. That thickness might be a little bit, so we can actually come up here to dynamic subdiv and turn that thickness down to say something more like 0.02. Yeah. And now let's get the move topological brush up in this. Hey, what's up, Emperor of Cheese? Hooray! Yay, how you doing? Now I'm going to end up kind of pushing this in a little bit. We'll start kind of cleaning this up a bit. There we go. Making this feel a little bit more natural, like they're overlaid. And again, that move topological comes in clutch with some of this positioning here. So I can just come in and start moving this, getting a little bit more of these layers built up. And then also what I want to do, I think actually I'm going to drop this thickness a little bit too. Let's see. If I go here, drop the thickness just a, no, let's go here. Let's go 0.03. That's fine. Let's actually put this here. I'm going to try to do just a little bit of an inflate. That's fine. Let's come here 0.02. Yeah, maybe something like that. Start scaling this down just a bit. I'm still working with single-sided geometry right now. When it comes to clothes, I don't like working with dual-sided geometry. I feel like that just ends up breaking too many times. There we go. Let's get something like that. I am doing well, thank you. Yeah, I am doing excellent. A little tired, you know, came from Monsterpalooza, was mentioning that a little bit. But yeah, overall really, really good. Okay. Let's go ahead and put this back here. And then I'm just going to go ahead and do a little bit of an inflate. Here we go. That's looking a little bit better. Still a little bit of correcting that needs to happen. That is okay. Nice. Okay, now I want to get a little bit of texture on there. So what we're going to do, because we only have a few more minutes, is there a hotkey for pivot to the center or hotkey for resetting the pivot place? So when you're using the Gizmo, if you go ahead and press and hold Alt and then tap anywhere on the model that you have selected, it's going to put that gizmo there, and then that is going to end up being your pivot point section. So if I come over here and I have this off over here, notice I'm pivoting from that area right there on that point. So if you wanted to reset that, again, you know, if I right click as well, every time I right click, I'm changing that pivot point as well as I'm moving around. So to reset things, I hit F a lot, or I'll reset the gizmo and then hit F to that as well. Also, a thing that a lot of artists do is they actually come over here to the axis, to the rotate axis, and have Y up. That happens a lot because it ends up being a nicer pivot point for that. So it is very helpful to have that there as well. So having the Y up over X, Y, and Z helps correct some of that in that position. Yeah, that's kind of the simplest way to put it. Why is the G key always highlighted? Oh, on my stream? Oh. No idea. That's just a software error. I wasn't pressing G at all. Thanks for calling that out. I had to think about where you were seeing that, and I was like, oh yeah, in that position there. Okay. All right, great. So what was I going to do? Oh, yes. Let's come up here. I want to get a little bit of some noise on. Come on. Where is it? I want to get some noise set up here. So here on the vest and maybe on the belts too. Might use the same noise. Okay. So what I'm going to do is we're going to come, because Ian's a G. Thank you, AQ. I love it. Okay, we're going to do surface noise here. I'm going to go ahead and solo this bad boy out here. Just kind of frame this for a minute. Let's go to noise. Okay. So, actually, let's do this. Let's see if we can pull up something a little quicker. See what kind of textures we actually have shipped with ZBrush. Might be able to generate something that looks a little bit more natural. Actually, I do kind of like this texture here. But I also like some of this noise. I could try to find a texture that would work out. Let's also do this. Let's come up here. Let's go to our noise filter. And let's just see. This one actually could be kind of cool. All right, we can manipulate this one. So let's come here. Let's go. I notice it is all over the place here. That's okay. So we're going to come here and we're going to just pull the color back to 0. Okay, and you can see this nice little wave of things happening. So what we could do is now start editing that. First things first, let's actually get the scale of this going. Pick something that we think we like, and then 2, let's actually come in and adjust maybe the way the strength is. A little bit of mix noise, and now we can actually come in and start manipulating this structure just a little bit. And you could double click on a pinpoint and zoom in. And double click again and that zooms out. If you didn't know. And then I can also pull this out and get maybe a little bit of a harsher transition. See something like that. That could work out there just fine. So I have something like that. Now that looks a little busted, right? Because right now we only have single-sided geometry. So I'm going to hide that noise. I'm going to come up here and I'm actually going to go ahead and apply this, which now will give me double-sided geometry here. I'm going to go ahead and drop the thickness and go back to dynamics, subdivision. So now I have 2 sides. I'm going to go back to surface noise. I'm going to turn that on. And now I'm going to go ahead and say mask by noise. And here now, I can do like a little bit of a basic form, like a nice little movement to that. And then I could also turn that noise back on. I could subdivide a few times, give me more towards 1,000,000. Turn that noise back on, right? And now at this point, mask by noise one more time. Invert that if I wanted to. Give me something that looks a little bit more like this. And then now what I can do is we can come up here. Let's go to polygroups, and we can go ahead auto groups. Okay, and then we can make sure that we move some of this where we want it to be. And this will give me a little bit more of a nice texture to that. Now with this guy right here, we could actually, now that we got noise on that, maybe we can turn around and generate a better thickness. And then manipulate this just a little bit. Actually, that's too thick. Nice little trim. So we'll end up cleaning that up just a little bit more, but what's cool about this, we come back here to this section. We come back here and we can come on up to noise. Noise, 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 surface noise. Let's actually go ahead and go to edit and let's copy this. Say okay. And now we can start applying this to our belt. And our belt's the same problem, right? So we do have to apply this thickness, turn that back on, come here, turn this bad boy in, and then we can come and do the rest. Nice character. No, he's not going to be an NPC. No. Could we use noise in surface area like masking? Wait, you mean, yeah, you can mask with it. Absolutely. So like, for example, here, if I come on up to surface and I paste this noise, so I go into noise, I hit paste, and I come in here and I have this guy, right? If I want, while the noise is still activated, so here the noise is still activated but it's not applied, I can mask certain areas off. And now only some parts will get that and other parts won't. So yes, you can absolutely mask off those areas. And I'm actually going to go a little bit lower with this noise. Say something like that. Now I'm going to go ahead and copy this. Okay, and just for the sake of fun and hurry up and do type thing, I'm going to go ahead and just repeat this process a few times. So I'm actually leaning into now making it double-sided geometry. Because we're getting to the point where we're going to move into texturing. Let's come in here, noise, and paste. Right? That's actually the same method I did to get the texture. If you guys remember my Santa Cruz Screaming Hand, how I got all of the texture on that was the same way. And here's the cool part too. If you look at this, as I move the belt, notice the texture is also updating in the position. So that is a way too that you can make sure before you settle on what that texture lives and how it works, as I push in this geometry, I know that this is going to update for me perfectly fine, whereas the one that it is set on, it does not. There we go. Let's go ahead. Oh, Click is yelling at me today. Okay. That is fine. There it is. That's the one. Actually want this one to be pushed in underneath a little bit. There we go. And I want this one to be pushed out. And I also want this one to be pushed out. Trying to make that look like a natural wrap. There we go. Beautiful. All right, cool. We've actually gotten pretty far, which is nice. So I'm going to come through here. I'm going to make sure I hit save. Does dynamic thickness have UV data that can be used with noise? Dynamic thickness, if you have UV on it, it will support the UV as well. But if you don't, like in this case, I didn't use the UVs, then what I can do is actually cut those UVs pretty quickly. So for example, but yeah, if I had UVs on there, like if I had the UV on the main strap, then it would absolutely, I mean, actually, that's a great question. Let me double check because you're changing the geometry structure. So here I don't have it. So if you had single-sided geometry, you made dual-sided geometry with thickness, then maybe it wouldn't really support that. However, let's actually answer that question together just to confirm because I've never taken that approach. So I'm going to go ahead and actually just come here. I'm going to do polygroups. I'm going to do group by normals. And then I'm going to go ahead and just cut some UVs real fast. So I'm just going to go ahead to UV master. And I'm not symmetrical. Polygroups, unwrap. Boom. Okay, great. So if we don't change the actual topology, now I have UVs. So what my UVs look like. Really, really beautiful. Now if I turn on dynamic sub and then go to geometry and then hit apply, my UVs are still there. So my UVs are still there and they look to be intact. So I would say in that first one, yeah, that works out. Now I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this. I'm now going to go ahead and just delete. I'm going to delete higher, and I'm also going to go ahead and delete hidden. Now this is where it should break on me, okay? Now I'm going to come through and say unwrap, give me a different UV set. So now here's a different UV set. Okay, perfect. And now I'm going to go ahead and say dynamic with thickness at 0.03, because now this is generating a new mesh. I'm going to go ahead and say apply, and now my UVs, well, they show to be intact, but now it's just funky. So I would want to recut those UVs. So if you're working with dynamic but not dynamic thickness, I would say yeah, that's a pretty good method. But if you're going to work with dynamic thickness from single-sided geometry to double-sided geometry, then yeah, I would stay away from. I would just cut my UVs when you know that you have the topology required. So yeah, hopefully that answered that question. Great question, by the way. I'm going to go ahead and delete that guy. And now we have this. But then, yeah, once those UVs are intact, going back to that part, sorry, I forgot to answer that part. Once your UVs are intact, I'm just going to quickly cut some UVs, just say unwrap. Done. Boop. And now here, edit, and then, yeah, you would just turn on the UV section right there. Then you have the UV itself. Okay, very cool, very cool. Great question, great stuff, everyone. It's 4 a.m. in South Korea. Thank you so much for the live stream and showing all the tips. I'm sorry for a lot of questions. No, you're super good. I love it. Have a good night. Wish you well. Happy, wonderful days. Ian, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. How long does it take for someone to learn ZBrush? So that's a great question, and I'm going to answer it in two ways. First way is if you are just learning the program, then the program itself is not super complicated. So the program itself is, I would say, can take a user anywhere between a couple days to a couple weeks, depending on how much you want to actually get into utilizing or learning ZBrush. There's so much entailed with ZBrush specifically that even as somebody who trains, I'm still like diving in and finding new things with ZBrush. Plus we develop for ZBrush all the time, right? So we're always trying to, I'm going in and discovering older features that I never played with that might have been done in, like, let's say ZBrush 3 days or 4 or 6 days. Because I started ZBrush in 4 or 7-ish. That's when I started ZBrush. So to to kind of say, like, if you're just learning the program, then it may not take a whole lot to get in there. Like, you know, the getting started series that we have in ZBrush, I'll tell you right now, like, I'll share the link. It's at maxon.net. It's 100% free. And a huge shout out to Anna Carolina, because Anna Carolina is the one who recorded this series, and she not only destroys it in the best way possible, but everything is digestible. So it's like a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there, and it's 100% free. Like, you don't need to do anything other than watch this 24-part series, and you're going to be rocking it in no time. So just to learn the program itself, like I said, it could probably take a few days to a couple of weeks to get really, really comfortable. Now, if you're like me, this is where it gets tricky. If you're like me and you've never sculpted a thing in your life, so you're not a sculptor, right? And then you're picking up ZBrush for the first time. Now what you're doing is you're learning two things simultaneously. You're learning how to use a program, and you're learning how to sculpt. And those are two different skill sets that you're learning at the same time. And that is where sometimes it can be a little frustrating when you're trying to pick up ZBrush for the first time. So what I would say is, if you're learning for the first time, you don't know how to sculpt, and you don't know ZBrush, what you should do is it would to actually be faster for you to just learn the functionality of ZBrush and what ZBrush can do, and get comfortable in the program. Play with it every day. Don't worry about making a single thing other than grabbing a sphere, trying out different brushes. In fact, I'll show you right now. Let me just hit save real fast. So I'm just going to come here, hit save. So what I would recommend you do is, when you load up ZBrush for the first time, you will see something that looks a lot like this. So here's a quick getting started in ZBrush for you right here, right now. So you're going to see something like this, and you're going to be like, wow, that's okay. I don't need any of that information at the moment. That information is super cool because it tells you relevant, up-to-date events. But at the moment, you're learning the program. Don't worry. The second thing is, okay, I'm just going to hit save one more time just to make sure. The second thing is, you see this project right here? This project right here is your best friend. When you're starting out, all you need to do is double-click this project and say, nope, I don't want to save anything because I'm just starting. And now check this out. Without doing anything else, just the pen, I'm now sculpting. I am now utilizing ZBrush. And most likely your first brush selected will be the standard brush. So you'll start actually seeing something more like this. And you're like, yes, I'm doing a thing. It's actually a little bit more intense than that. So you'd be like this. So you're sculpting now, right? That's it. Literally, all you did was you had this light box open, which is the comma key. As Paul Gabriel likes to say, comma, 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 that whole thing, like the comma. I totally just like butchered his thing. But anyway, double click that gets you into here, and now boom, you're sculpting, right? The other thing you need to know is that you have the brushes up here on this side, the top left side. Those are your brushes. Just click it. Don't worry about how many brushes are here. That's not really. All you need to do is grab a brush and try a thing. Be like, oh, okay, that was kind of cool. All right, what does the next brush do? Control Z, just to step back for a little bit and be like, oh, what does the chisel creature brush do? Okay, this has a lot of stuff up here in the top. Okay, oh, the ear is selected. Oh, hey, that's kind of cool. All right, that's doing an ear. That's neat. Okay, what does this thing do? Because now these are different placement stuff, right? Okay, my resolution is total garbage. This doesn't look like anything Ian was working with. What's happening? I'm going to Control Z that. Now, the second thing you need to do is, on this tool side, on the right-hand side, you're going to see a bunch of folders. All you need to focus on is geometry, okay? And here, you're going to see a thing called DynaMesh, and this will be turned on. Just slide the resolution slider up just a little bit, and then all you got to do is press and hold Control, and then drag here in space, whether it be left-click mouse or just your tablet, and that's going to rebuild the surface. So now when I drag this stuff out, you can see here my resolution is a lot better. And you're like, yeah, okay, cool. So now I'm going to make something that's very reminiscent of The Last of Us. Perfect. Looks really weird. I love it. Some ears. What does this do? This looks like a nostril of a piggy pig. Perfect. I made a thing. Right? Now navigation. Navigation's really easy. All you need to do is just simple left click, or just with a tablet, just to rotate around, you're just clicking in space. That's it. If you want to pan around, press and hold the Alt button and go ahead and touch with your tablet or left click, and you're panning. And then while you're panning around, you don't even have to do anything else. Just lift the Alt button. And now I'm zooming in and out. And so you'll start seeing artists come in and do this. Boom, done. And then just play with that. Just play with that for a little bit. Get used to that. Get comfortable with that. Learn what these brushes do. Most artists have what we call the 5 favorite brushes, and it's just like they like to do a thing. Once you get comfortable moving around in ZBrush, then you can start picking up sculpting. And one last tip too, if I want another thing, I want another object, just go ahead and append or insert a new primitive or a shape. And then W for the gizmo will move something. So you could just insert a new cube, move something with the gizmo with W, hit Q to close that gizmo, and you're good to go. That's it. Like, that's all you really need to know to get started. Get comfortable with that, and then you can expand your knowledge later. Michael Palpatine just watches some tutorials to remember stuff. That's pretty funny. Okay, let's see. Which tool would be the best for a piece of cheese? Low poly, blah, blah, blah. So piece of cheese, I mean, that could be a pretty interesting thing. You know what? Maybe a piece of cheese. Like Swiss cheese? Like, okay, here. We're going to make cheese real quick. We're going to make a slice of cheese. You ready for this? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to insert, and I'm going to insert a plane 3D. I'm going to hit solo real fast, okay? And I'm just going to turn on the wireframe by hitting Shift F. That turns on and off the wireframe. It's also this button right here, Poly F. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here, and I'm going to press and hold Control on the brush side, and I'm going to get a mask perfect circle, and I'm going to mask some of these areas. Now notice this is really low topology, right? This is super low. That's okay. Let's step it up a bit. Let's clear it, go up to geometry, and let's subdivide a few times. Okay, delete's lower. And now same thing, I'm gonna go ahead and mask a couple little pieces right here. Say something like this. It's the worst piece of cheese ever, but hopefully it helps. Boom, boom. Piece of Swiss cheese. Boom. Okay. Now here I'm going to hit Control W, and that's going to go ahead, and that's actually going to give me a new polygroup. So with all my masking, Control W or Command W, well, actually no, Control W or Control W on Mac, that will give you a new polygroup. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to close all my menus on the tool menu, go to deformation. Nope, lied to you. I'm going to go to polygroups, and I'm going to, come on, hold on. My brain reset. Wow, I really just did a thing. Back to deformation. There we go. It clicked. Okay, back to deformation, and I'm going to polish by groups, and I'm going to clean that up. So I was right. So geometry, deformation, polish by groups, tool, deformation, polish by groups. There you go. Now I have all this. Now I'm going to go ahead and Control-Shift-Tap the cheese, and then I'm going to invert that, and then I'm just going to go ahead and delete hidden. So I'm going to go to geometry and modify topology, delete hidden. And then if you really want to, you can go to ZRemesher, and then from here you can actually, secret sauce time. This is what I use all the time when I ZRemesh anything. ZRemesher, this will be your best friend. I'm going to go to our target polygroups. Right now I'm at 13,000 active points, so 5 is fine, but if I was higher, I would probably adjust that. I'm going to go to keep groups, drop that down to smooth groups at 0. And then I'm going to keep adaptive on, but I'm going to turn adaptive size down to 0. This is going to make sure that the quads stay as even as possible. I'm going to go ahead and just ZRemesh this. There we go. And I can half this and do maybe a retry. Okay, that busted it. That's fine. So this is actually pretty nice. This is actually about 5,000 here. And now if I want to, I can just go ahead with the Z modeler, and I can turn this up, Q mesh. So Z modeler, press and hold the space bar over the face, Q mesh, all polygroups, and I can give this a little bit of a thickness. So come here right there on the edge, a little bit of a thickness. There you go. Kind of made a really ridiculous piece of cheese. And then if you really want to, just before we go, we want to take this up one notch. I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to delete other. So I'm going to delete all other things except for what I have selected. I'm going to insert here maybe like a cylinder 3D. Here you go. You want to make a patty real fast. I'm just going to take this. I'm going to smoosh this down. So now I have something like this. Bring this over here just for a minute. Subdivide a few times. Beautiful. It's looking good. Take my cheese. Ramp this over. Okay, maybe get this a little bit closer. And let's actually scale that up just a little bit. Perfect. Now with my cheese selected, I'm going to go to Dynamics. And I'm going to pen this over here on this side. I'm going to go ahead and collision volume. That's your best friend. Inflate, maybe 0.01, just to give it a little bit of inflate. And gravity, let's kick this down to like 2. Just go ahead and recalculate that. Run gravity. Boom. Cheese is now over my patty. And if I go here to Tool, Geometry, Dynamic Subdivision with a little bit of thickness, I can now have my cheese over there, or my tablecloth. So there's a ton of stuff you could do. Yep, you could even do a little bit of a Boolean Gruyere. Absolutely. Nice, nice. All right, that's going to be it, though. I do have to go, but we definitely, Devachi, anytime that you're in here, please feel free to ask those questions. These do get recorded, so now that you've asked that question and we went through and we answered it, now on the once I end the stream, it's going to save to our Maxon YouTube, our Pixelogic ZBrush YouTube, and it will be on there, so you can always go back in and scroll it. And a huge shout out to Dr. Sassy, who actually comes in here all the time with timestamps, and he timestamps all this stuff, and then we just copy and paste so that you can search these very quickly. So huge shout out to him. He's the one behind the scenes doing all the magic, which is amazing. Anyway, that is it, guys. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Enjoyed it. We're going to do more Watto stuff next week. Unless I finish it between now and then maybe we'll do some more fun creature stuff. All right, that was it, and I will chat with all of you later. Bye, 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 bye.